real estate agent? Are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder Podcast.
And good morning, everybody in the Facebook stratosphere, LinkedIn. We are on live as well. I want to welcome everybody to episode 159. But it actually is 156 weeks in a row that we have done this show. It's Real Estate Talk, TGIF. And the 156 is not an important number, really, when you look at a lot of different things. But I want to tell you that what it marks is a special day because we have now done this broadcast for 3 years straight. We have not missed a week. We have done it 156 weeks in a row with 3 extra broadcasts. We'll continue to go for as long as I can. I mean, you know what? I've got shows planned for when I'm in Dallas at a conference in a couple of weeks. We've done it in Florida. We've done it in Vegas. We've done it in a lot of different places over the past few years, but we're going to continue to go. I want to introduce a very special guest, the chief evangelist for BombBomb, and I'm sure people have heard of BombBomb, Ethan Beute. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for the invite. Congratulations on 3 straight years of doing the show. More importantly, doing the work, building the community, et cetera. I'm pleased to be a part of it. And I wish you again, congratulations on a commitment and the consistency.
Thank you so much for that, man. It's a lot of fun, and I keep telling people, the reason I started doing it was I saw people doing a bad job, and I said, you know what, I can do better than that, even if it's just myself. You got to the point where one episode, I think it was episode 30 or something, I interviewed myself. I went from like this to like this. And it was it was fun, and
I'll bet
2 calls, people wanted to know if I was nuts, and I was anyway. But here we are, Real Estate Talk, TGIF. Ethan, do you know what TGIF stands for?
Thank goodness it's Friday is what it is most commonly known as, I think.
You're very close, but I'm going to change it a little bit. Thank God it's finale.
Oh,
Dave
there you
finale.
go.
You know, it works, right?
Totally.
All right. So, man, thank you so much for coming on. I always love starting to talk to people and ask them how they got from what they were doing before into the place that they're at now. Like you've been with BombBomb for quite some time. I've known of you. We've never met before. I've known of you for years. I've known, your coworker, Steve Pastinelli, for years when he was going office to office in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's been great to watch him go. And it's been great to see you also move forward too. Tell us how you got to where you are from where you came from.
Sure. I'm going to go probably farther back than people might expect, but I promise I'll move really quickly. Like I had zero idea what I wanted to do with my life or career, honestly. But I always liked school. So I, attended the University of Michigan, grew up in Michigan, and ultimately they make you choose a major. I ended up, for a variety of reasons, choosing communication and psychology. And all of the kids, when I joined the public relations club, which I didn't even know what public relations was, were talking about all their internships at the radio and television stations, the newspapers, et cetera, like back home on the East Coast or in Detroit or in Chicago or wherever. So I did the same thing. I got an internship at the local Fox station in Grand Rapids, Michigan that summer, ended up getting hired there a few years later, and ended up doing about a dozen years running marketing teams inside local television stations like your local ABC or Fox or NBC affiliate in Grand Rapids, in Chicago, and out here where I am now in Colorado Springs. And so I was kind of bored of the work, as some people tend to get. It's a highly cyclical thing. A lot of the same things happen year after year after year at about the same time of the year. And I was not particularly enamored of the product anymore, which I think is a problem if you are in sales or marketing in particular, but really in any role. If you don't love the product that you're representing,
right,
you're just not going to be doing your best work, period.
Exactly.
So I started exploring, what skills are transferable? What will people pay me for? And I was working on an MBA at the time, but then I was also doing project work for other companies. And so I met Darren Dawson and Connor McCluskey, the 2 co-founders of BombBomb, when I arrived out here in Colorado Springs, and ended up doing some project work for them in this kind of phase of exploration while I was still employed full-time at the NBC station here. And I liked them. They liked me. I liked the work. They liked my work. I believed in what they were doing. And at some point I just quit what I was doing and joined those guys.
That's great. I mean, BombBomb for me, I have used it and continue to use it now through another platform, and it's always been a phenomenal thing to do. I mean, a lot of people want to send out, video email. They want to send out video. Tell me the process that you use when, like, say you're at a show, right, and you're talking to people about BombBomb, and they know nothing about it. Talk to me how you approach that.
Yeah, I mean, there are a variety of ways to do it, and it kind of depends on the environment. But I'll just take one approach right now.
Sure.
So I'll establish initially: are relationships critical to your long-term success? And very infrequently will people say no, and if they don't, then that begs a series of follow-up questions. And so my idea is, if relationships are critical to your long-term success, then why would you entrust your most important and valuable messages exclusively to faceless typed out text, right? It doesn't differentiate you. It doesn't build trust and rapport. It doesn't communicate nearly as well as when we, get eye to eye, at least through the screen, or better yet, in person.
Right.
Why aren't we doing this more often when the technology has been available for years for us to do this? And so, simple personal video messages in email, in Slack, in LinkedIn messages, in Facebook messages, and text messages, anywhere you're connecting and communicating with the people who matter most to your success, whether that's clients, past clients, prospects, team members, other people in your business ecosystem. All of these people will be drawn more psychologically proximate to you, even in the absence of physical proximity. You'll communicate more clearly. There'll be less confusion and back and forth.
Right.
You get to win on who you are. Like, you are your own best sales asset. And so those are some of the core ideas that underpin this. And we can go even deeper into human psychology, but that's kind of the essence of it. And so we design products and serve people around these ideas.
Yeah. So, originally it was connecting with people in a different way. And I'm going to submit that it still is connecting with people in a different way, because a lot of people, they shy away from video, right? They shy away from it. And their reasons, I love the reasons are, I don't like the way I look on video. I don't like the way I sound on video. And I'll never forget, people talk about what to say to that. But Katie Lance once said on a stage at Inman, said, that's what you look like. That's what you sound like. Get over it and move forward with it. Right. And that's the way I've looked at it too, because I've been doing video an awful long time, and, I move forward. So, what are the applications best used for video? That's a loaded question, because I think it's endless. So talk to us how BombBomb works in video and how it's been able to help agents build their businesses.
Sure. First, I want to start with what you and Katie Lance and many of us all agree on. I just want to address that really quickly, because I do believe it's the single biggest impediment to people successfully making this part of what they do. And I've seen so many transformations for people when they get past that discomfort or that judgment. It's truly liberating. And then we'll get into some of the use case ideas.
Sure.
I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. These are all in various other versions of that. I'm not a video person. This isn't for me. I'm not good at this. These are all anchored in the same problem, which is human vulnerability, fear of judgment, fear of rejection. This is a deep, deep human fear. If we were to be judged and rejected 1,000 years ago, we would die on the beach or in the desert or on the mountainside or wherever our tribe, or our townsfolk were, right? We need social inclusion and social acceptance. We need belonging. Even the most hardcore badass type A people need to be appreciated for who they are as individual human beings. And so that's the root of that problem. Now, the way through it is the way we get through anything that we're not basically good at. And I've seen this cut both ways for real estate professionals in particular, because every single one of you is, your own boss, right? Like, no one can dictate what you do or don't do. That's why there's such a strong and rich and deep coaching business around it, is that everyone needs some level of accountability, because the organizational structure isn't going to hold you accountable to doing the things you need to do. But anything you want to get basically good at, whether that's playing chess, playing the oboe, speaking Mandarin, getting good at downhill skiing, whatever it is,
Right.
doing a sales presentation, making a cold call, door knocking, all these things that you did for the first time or the third time or the fifth time were difficult and challenging because they were new. They were uncomfortable. You didn't know if you were doing it right. You didn't know if people were going to respond favorably. You didn't know if you're going to be successful at it. And these are all deep human fears. And so it's going to be the same thing with video, but all you need to do is practice through it. The easiest way to practice, then we'll move on to more use cases.
Sure.
Is to keep a basic running list at hand or scroll your social media feeds to generate the list of people that you want to reach out to and say some version of thank you, good job, congratulations, I've been thinking about you. Hey, I just noticed that. I just noticed that your daughter made captain of the volleyball team. You must be so proud. My gosh, I remember when she was just this, little kid. Gosh, she's grown up so much. You must be so proud as parents. Just, really excited for you all. Hope she has a great season, right? Simple things where you don't need a script. The threat level is lower because you know them and they know you.
Right.
It's a great way to get those reps in. And I know you're the master of another easy one. The birthday video. Steve, it was just Steve's birthday. And he was like, yeah, Dave you just reach out to me with a personal video. So birthday videos are another really easy thing to do that can be fun, that can get you comfortable doing these reps. And then you can expand into these other use cases. Any follow-up there before I move into use cases?
No. Keep going. I wanted to just say, one of the things you said, talking about, keeping the running list of people, right? I just wanted to thank you. The great one that I've used a lot, and I'm just so glad to hear you say it. I just noticed that, right? I was just thinking of you. Did you see this? Right? This is really cool. Check this out. Right? So it's unencumbered and it's easy to do. Look, you know what? I've been doing video for 14, 15 years. I still get a little nervous.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right? So, these are great things and great ways to communicate through BombBomb, through everything else as well, all the other channels, right? So continue, please.
Sure. So when you think about, I'm going to speak about a broader concept and just, I'll offer one big idea. First, anytime you're going to your keyboard and pecking something out, first of all, you're getting in your head, you're getting intellectual, you're getting conscious, you're getting rational in order to construct the words and sentences and paragraphs. So you're moving yourself out of where humans tend to operate, which is visual, emotional, intuitive. That's where we do the vast majority of our work, and that's how we make the vast majority of our decisions. So even in reaching out to someone in typed out text, you're already kind of breaking centuries or millennia of kind of human best practices at some level, right? But we'll go with it. So you get intellectual, you put these ideas together into words and sentences and paragraphs in order to communicate with people. Anytime you're doing that in a digital environment is an opportunity to either add a video or replace that text with a video. And it's because any video in a platform like BombBomb or any of the other ones that are out there, or even a kind of a DIY solution like hosting them in YouTube. And in all of these cases, you can either take the link and share the link, or you can take the embed code and share the embed code, or with a service like BombBomb, we kind of blend those together. So you don't even have to add the link or the embed code in a lot of cases. It's just directly integrated in the Gmail email, or it's directly integrated in some of the other, where you have dozens of real estate mortgage CRM and platform integrations, among other integrations. And it will work directly in that platform. And so almost anything you're sending could be sent in text, could be sent with a video, or a video could be sent in place of it. Okay, so that's one big idea. Another big idea, there are kind of three categories where of all your digital communication, where would I send a video? When is good versus when is it fine just to type it out and send it? Few key ideas here. The first one is personal connection. Anytime you want to introduce yourself or have people feel like they know you before you ever meet them, or you want to remind people what it's like to be with you, to work with you, to see your face, etc. That's a great time to use video instead of text. Another one is to manage emotion or tone. Okay, this could be positive, good news, like we gave a couple of those examples. Happy birthday, congratulations, good job. But it could also be negative emotion. It could be, hey, I've got bad news for you, right? Like, we lost out on another offer, right? That's happening to a lot of people these days. But there's bad news we need to share with people all the time. In a bad or a weak market, it's, hey, we need to lower the price. Here are 3 reasons why. And I won't bore you with the psychology of why bad news is better. Asynchronously, and B, through video, but it is. And then there's also like apologies. I mean, we're all humans, so we mess up. Making an apology where you can look someone in the eye through the camera lens and let your, by the way, qualifier on this emotional, positive, good news, bad news one, you actually need to mean it. If you don't actually mean it, don't use video because it will give you away. So, but if you really are sorry, if you have some level of regret and you're going to make it good, express that through video, because people will feel it in a way that they will never feel if you just type it out. So that's the second one, is managing emotion or tone, right? That's not done as well in faceless typed out text. That's why we add in an emoji or an emoticon, but there's research around that says that just adds layers of confusion as opposed to helping. The third and final one is detail or complexity. Anytime you want to break down detail or complexity, this could be the terms in an offer. This could be kind of some legal stuff. This could actually be a contract. I'm going to legally be your agent in this. Walk through what different things mean. If people tend to get confused or frustrated around something, break that down. If you want to show a report, if you want to show some of the activity on the listing, anything you want to show on your screen, you can do a screen recording, or anything you just want to break down into layperson's terms. Talking it out is typically going to be more effective than trying to type it all out. Another great category here is when a client reaches out with a specific question. Very often, it's going to be easier for you just to explain it than it is to type it all out. Quick time saver pro tip here for those frequently asked questions that don't have a lot of variability person to person. You can actually record the video once and use it over and over and over again. Huge time saver. So those are too high. Any message that you're sending digitally could include a video. And when would you use video instead of text? When you want to make personal connection, when you want to manage emotion or tone, or when you want to break down detail or complexity. Now, there are more than that. We can now talk about the customer life cycle. The customer life cycle looks something like this. I need to know that I have a problem or an opportunity. Typically, a home seller or a home buyer kind of will self-identify, but there are also a number of strategies, of course, to bring that to people's awareness. Then there's the education phase of what are the different ways to approach this problem or opportunity? How do you actually do it uniquely? Why do you do it that way? So we need to move people into education, and then ultimately move them into this, what we call the selection phase, which is, why am I going to work with you instead of my cousin? I feel a lot of pressure to work with my cousin, even though they're not an accomplished real estate agent. I still feel this pressure, or it's you and another highly accomplished professional that a really close friend of mine referred me to. Like, I'm trying to make these decisions. So how do we stand out, differentiate ourselves, make sure our unique selling proposition is clear, make sure that people understand why we are the right fit for them in this situation. Then there's the point of commitment, signing a contract. Then you need to onboard them into your product or service, right? And in this case, it's you might be handing them off to a buyer's agent or the listing specialist, or you might have an assistant that's going to be doing a lot of the community. How do we make sure that they know who's who, what's what, how do the steps go? How do we do it around here? So we need to onboard them into that. Obviously, we need to help them achieve impact, which is ultimately the purchase or sale of the home. And then ultimately, we want that positive growth loop where we can continue to provide that impact for them and other people they know for years and years to come. And so that includes, how do we follow up at that point of purchase or sale to make sure that this moment is really raised up? How do we stay in touch over time in meaningful and relevant ways, and these types of things? And so across that whole journey, you have these opportunities, again, to lead with your very best sales asset, which is who you are. So I hope that's a basic framework. I know we can get into more detail on
there's
specific use cases.
there's so much there. I want to just to you've actually taken a business and told everybody how to run their business. Okay, so let's think about that, right? So you talk about the first thing you said is something that I use on a regular basis. I work with a lot of new agents. I coach a lot of new agents, and one of the things I tell them is to get in touch with me. There's three ways we can communicate. One, I want you to text me. I will either call you right away, tell you when I can call you, or if I know what it is, I'm going to shoot you a quick video to tell you how to do it. Those quick videos are now cataloged into FAQs where, okay, how to do a contract. You know how many hours that saves me? How to do a listing. You know how many hours that saves me? It's amazing, right? And anytime I run into something like that, it's going to be there, right? I have that cataloged and also in an onboarding place where they're all set up, right? Now, these same videos can be used through BombBomb, through any other thing, or a link can be placed in an email to send it out. Hey, check this out. This is the way to go. Like we said, did you see this? Check this out. It's a great way to start it where people are going to, oh, no, I didn't. Let me look at this, right? It's just so much that you've just said. I mean, you said something in like 8 minutes, which was like, would take someone 8 years to figure out. Right.
I've spent almost a decade doing it.
Right. You have, right. And the thing is that as we move forward with what we need to do in our businesses, video is always going to be a great way to get across things. Now, I wanted to ask you a question because the bad news part, okay? Someone would say, well, how do you really give bad news over video? Text, I think text is, to my point, for emotion is way overrated. I don't think it should be used for conversations. Like, I will tell you, I've had 3 text conversations this week, and I said, I won't do this through text. Pick up the phone. This is the hardest thing for people to do, to actually do this and dial it and put it on their ear. I mean, you and I both remember what a phone really looks like.
Totally.
But they won't do it, right? So the next best thing to me actually is video. And you know what? I think one of the best ways to use it in what you said to throw in, and you said it before, personal connection, and that could be a thank you as well. Look at realtors. We talk all the time. The best realtors out there are pounding the phones. They're making calls. They're calling for sale by owners. They're calling expireds. How about when you hang up that phone, say, hey, thanks so much for calling. Thanks so much for picking up the phone, so on and so forth, right? So there's so much that you put into that. What else is there for a real estate agent to do aside from actually doing it? Now, the other thing you said, which is something which is in part of my coaching, which is differentiation. Okay. No matter what, this is what I call the art of differentiation, plain and simple. This is it, right? We just went through 15 months of stuff we're not used to, right? And we had to, Tom Ferry liked the word shift or pivot, right? Everybody was shift, whatever it was, but we had to do things differently. And I like to call it the virtualness of the real estate world. Matter of fact, if you hear the word virtualness, it is my word. I made it up. Anyway, but the virtualness of it. And what does virtual include? Video, right? And we've had to do that through everything we've done over the past 15 months. But here's the question I have for you when it comes to virtual business, et cetera. Are we going to go back to the way we did things before, or will video increase?
Yeah, I think my couple key ideas here, which are really, really interesting. First and foremost, I think like a lot of situations where we find ourselves forced into a situation, we start to learn some of the things we didn't like so much about the way we were doing things before, and some of the things that we do like about the situation we were forced into. At the same time, there's a longing for some of those other pieces. So I think what's going to happen kind of on a person by person, maybe even an industry by industry basis, the way that we all kind of like lead and follow and settle into new standards and new norms, and the culture slowly shifts over time, based on, people running ahead and other people following them, and like just kind of like that ebb and flow of the way things work. I think some of the practices that were developed in reaction to the pandemic, in reaction to having to be socially distanced, in reaction to finding ways to bring people into properties when we couldn't physically bring them into properties, all of these things that we were kind of forced into, some of the stuff is actually really useful and will continue to be useful going forward. And so I think some of those practices will stay. I think some of those will turn into, modifications of previous best practices into new best practices.
Right.
I think the one thing that most of us will agree on is that being together in person with other human beings is where it's at. That's what brings us to life. That's where we thrive. That's where we are most psychologically and emotionally engaged. I think there's just a deep longing for that. And so I think that will be the temper against saying, gosh, it's so much more efficient not ever having to get in the car to go see these people. I can just Zoom them from my basement office. Like it works if it has to work. It works if I need to line up back to back meetings on a particular day. It works if I just saw that person in person 2 weeks ago, or maybe even 2 months ago. We can get by with a virtual meeting. But maybe the next one in 2 more weeks or 2 more months, we should probably do that together, face to face. And so I think we'll find ways to modify. So that's one big idea. And we see this across a variety of industries. Telemedicine, for example, right? I don't really want to go to a doctor's office if I don't have to anymore, right? Like if I just have a few quick questions, and through my insurance provider or through the healthcare provider, I can just like log on and chat with somebody for 15 minutes and get real professional insight instead of, worrying myself into a black hole by reading WebMD and other articles about whatever ails me, right? Like that's going to stay. People are going to like that. But we're still, when we need a true physical examination, we're going to go in and see the doctor or the physician's assistant or whatever. So it'll be that way in real estate as well. So that's one idea. Another one is, and this kind of gets into BombBomb. And so I'll break down a basic in our kin. I'll break down a basic idea.
Go ahead.
So we have this. We're doing this on StreamYard, and it's going live. We're conversing live back and forth. People can engage if they want to. We also have Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. And so we'll call all of these video communication experiences and platforms, we'll call this live synchronous video, right? You're 2 hours ahead of me in the Eastern time zone. I'm in the Mountain time zone here in Colorado Springs on the Front Range of the Rockies. We both had to be here at the exact same time in order to have this, but we also have this slightly in-person experience, kind of the next best thing to being there in person. So that's live synchronous video. On the other hand, what you and I have been talking about around BombBomb and other services is recorded asynchronous videos, right? And the convenience of that is that I can record 6 of these thank you or good job or congratulations videos, or I've been thinking about you videos, in 15 minutes at the beginning of my day. And one person's going to open her video up immediately and reply and go, oh my gosh, best video ever. Totally made my day. Someone else is going to open it 2 minutes later. Someone's going to open it 2 hours later. Someone's going to open it 2 days later. And if I get that vacation reply from somebody, there's a chance they might not watch it until 2 weeks later.
That's right.
This asynchronous benefit of I do it when it's convenient for me, and the other person or the other people do it when it's convenient for them. And so you lose that back and forth. They can't reply directly in real time, but at the same time, they can do it. This is a bad habit, but I'm just thinking of like different times people might watch videos, like sitting in bed while they're scrolling their phone and they just check their inbox and boom, there you are in a text or in an email or in a LinkedIn message or whatever. Even though you did it, at the beginning of your workday, they're doing it at the end of their evening or whatever. Like this convenience of creating in-person moments outside of space, of course. That's what video has always done. Again, you are, I don't know how far, let's just guess like 1,600 miles away from me right now, right? Okay. So it overcomes distance. You're working with clients, I assume, across the country and perhaps even around the world.
Yep.
So video allows us to operate outside of distance and outside of space, right? But adding asynchronous video to our synchronous video communication, mixing in some asynchronous video allows us to be outside of space and outside of time. It's like this in-person moment untethered to kind of like the basis of reality at some level. But it still allows us to lead with kind of our personality, our expertise, our enthusiasm, our sincerity, our gratitude, all these subtle nuances that don't come through when we're using other forms of asynchronous communication, most commonly email. Last idea. During the pandemic, everyone was forced into getting comfortable doing live synchronous video. We had to. I need to see my kid's teacher. I need to see my client. I need to meet with this prospect. So we had to figure out how to do it with live synchronous video, and we had to arrange times to do it and get online and do it. The interesting thing about asynchronous recorded video messages is that at BombBomb, we had a lot of, all of our goals for April and May of last year were like, is 2 to 3x on everything, just because everyone was like, oh my God, I need a solution. I remember them. Or we've been in conversation with a very large organization, and all of a sudden all the red tape goes away and they're like, sign us up. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Cause we want to do this right away. But that didn't happen for everybody.
Right.
And the reason is, there's no alternative here. I have to meet people and have real conversations, and video is better than the phone in a lot of cases. Not quite as convenient for a variety of reasons at all times, but it has that benefit of face and nonverbal communication in a way that the phone doesn't. But here, I can still convince myself that the way I did it 2 years ago or 2 days ago or 2 decades ago is just as good today as it was, back then, right? I could just keep typing my messages out. I can keep going business as usual. Now, I think pandemic aside, regardless of a pandemic or not, regardless of our ability to have coffee or lunch with somebody face to face, I think it's a huge missed opportunity to try to convince yourself that continuing to type some of these messages out and refusing to participate in this asynchronous recorded video movement is good for you. I think you're fooling yourself. And I don't say that as a person that represents this company and this product that wants to generate revenue and grow a customer base. I say it as someone who knows that human relationships are the foundation for success, that trust is the currency of the economy. And in the absence of your ability to be there in person, these are some of the next best things you can do. And in so many cases, head and shoulders above the alternative, which is either A, doing nothing, which is the worst, or B, going to the keyboard and getting conscious and intellectual and trying to capture the spirit of what you're trying to communicate, which comes out of you naturally, capture it through the keyboard and hope that somebody else understands what you meant and can decode whatever you're trying to wrap in these, boring presentation of your ideas.
Right, exactly. When we talk about text or we talk about different content, there can be context that is missed, right? And what I mean by that is, I mentioned it previously earlier, that trying to have a conversation of any type other than cut and dried individual information in a text conversation is impossible. In an email conversation is also possibly not as possible as one would think, right? When I got to tell you, man, every day, it seems every day with my mentees, some of my coaching clients, it's like I say, did you, they have a problem and I have to help them doctor up a deal. And they say, well, I called him and he didn't get back to me. And I say, did you call him? Yeah, I texted him yesterday. No, you texted him. You didn't call anybody. Pick up the phone and call them. Well, I text. No. Right now, here we'll take it to the next level, right? When you say, personal connection, good news or bad news, and detail of a complexity makes a lot more sense, because last time I checked, there is no sarcasm font and there is no anger font unless you capitalize everything. And then there's a lot of people from years ago that still capitalize stuff. And they don't understand that most people think that means you're yelling at them. Right. So, in a video, it's so much easier to get your point across, to get your attitude across, to get sarcasm across, to get comedy across, everything else. I just don't know how to do that in text with the same context. And honestly, you know what? I'd even rather have a video conversation back and forth than a text conversation. Because let's face it, in my opinion, might be my age, text conversations are monotonous and difficult.
Yeah. So a couple key ideas here. I really appreciate that. And I agree with you. Couple things. One, if you want to not get involved in these back and forths where you're trying to restate yourself so that they can understand you. And we've all been in these email exchange and text message exchanges. And we'll even set aside the challenge of typos and autocorrection as a source of misunderstanding. We'll just set those aside completely and just say, they're not getting what I'm trying to communicate.
Right.
That goes down very quickly. We've done a number of studies, particularly in the customer service, customer success part of an organization, and the amount of back and forth it takes to resolve a ticket or an inquiry or a question goes down dramatically. So on the sales side, when we run A/B tests and we want to see that video does produce more replies and responses, which it does. On the service side of the house, we want to see that it produces fewer replies and responses. And we do see that because people understand what you mean, right? Because of all that. And the other cool benefit to it, a couple of them. First, we speak on average 4 times faster than we type. I think someone like you or me, Dave, is probably more like 5x, maybe even 6x.
I agree.
And certainly compared to my phone, compared to like my keyboard in front of me, like my phone, I might speak 8 times faster than I type on my phone. Now, my son, of course, who's a teenager, is like, like way faster than me. But in any case, we tend to save a lot of time. And besides the time it takes to spend a couple moments getting clear about who is this for? What am I trying to say, especially in this kind of bad news scenario? Like, how do I want to approach it? Do I want to come straight at it? Or do I want to kind of like warm them up a little bit and then kind of come around the side on like, oh, and the reason I'm actually sending this to you is probably like, you want to figure out what you want to do in the video, because people should easily and quickly be able to understand, who is this from? Why am I getting it? What's the opportunity and how do I proceed? Right? Like you want it easy for them to reply and respond or to understand what you're trying to communicate. So you do want to take a moment to get clear on that. But in terms of all the things that you were just talking about, Dave, how do I get across the fact that I'm joking and I'm not serious? How do I make sure that they know that I'm really concerned about this situation, or whatever the case may be? The fun thing is, in addition to speaking more quickly than we can type, we do all of that, that emotional communication automatically. We do it from birth. It's innate to all humans, and we do it universally. We express our subconscious through our face in an emotional way, universally and innately. We do it the same as every other person on earth. It's just fundamental to human existence, something we've perfected over millennia of evolution. Our ability to automatically express things through our faces. That's why we have to put on poker faces. We have to be intentional about not doing it if we want not to do it, because we do it all the time. Likewise, people are always reading that from us, not even in a conscious way. It's like when you greet someone for the first time, maybe you've never experienced them in any capacity. Maybe you're at an event or a trade show or a social event and someone introduces you, hey, Dave, I want you to meet Jennifer, right? And so you shake hands or whatever, or even you just look each other in the eye and greet one another verbally. You are going to have a very strong impression there. And it's going to be something like, I don't know about her. There's just something a little bit off. Or it's going to be, man, she's my kind of people. I know we're going to get along great, right? These things happen intuitively. And it's because we can read presence and intent and emotion from other people's faces, and we're not even conscious of the fact that we're doing it. And so when we want to be really, again, you have to be sincere. You have to mean what you say. If you are not a sincere person, do not use video. Or if you're not sincere about what you're saying, don't use video, because the discrepancy between the words that you're saying, you're amazing, I think you're great. If you don't mean it, your face is going to betray you. Your body is going to betray you. And that discrepancy, they might not know and consciously think this guy is lying to me, or he's blowing smoke, or he's, he doesn't really mean it. They're just going to know that there's a discrepancy there, and it's not going to feel complete, or it's not going to feel, I hate the word, but authentic. There's going to be something that's off, and they're going to know it, even if they can't verbalize it. And so, and on the other hand, if you say it and you do mean it, there's no better substitute for that. And so, you just save a lot of energy. Another last thought here. You save a lot of energy by just expressing this. Again, if you're honest, if you're forthright, that's why I don't ever worry about communicating with video. I'm a pretty straightforward, sincere, honest person. And so I just hit record on talking to people, and I don't worry about those discrepancies. Another reason it saves you energy is that, again, that conscious, rational part of your brain is the most energy intensive. It's the reason we make so many decisions subconsciously. The rational, conscious part of our brain, the intellectual part of our brain, of course, is the last one to develop because of this, our long, long history as a species. And so the most natural, intuitive, quick, subconscious part of our brain does most of the work, and that's visual and emotional in nature. And so you're truly actually saving energy when you just talk to people, versus, again, trying to, you know what you want to say, but now you need to get conscious and rational and intellectual and peck it into the keyboard and then look at it on the screen. And does this capture what I'm trying to say? And all, like, you're saving a lot of energy simply by talking to people more often as well.
I completely agree. I mean, one of the things that you've alluded to, you haven't used the phrase yet, is body language.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take body language alone and body language in quotes. And what I mean by that is that one of the things I've always taught the agents that I've worked with over the years was, you have a body language even in text on social media. You have a body language with whatever you put there, whether it's video or not. People are going to see your pace and tone of what you're writing and how you're putting it down. However, that body language, unless it's specific, can be misconstrued. The body language that you and I are giving right now as to what we're doing and how we're talking about it is both specific as to what we're talking about, but also in true sincerity. And the word like is authenticity as well, right? We're being sincere with what we're saying, because this is what we truly believe. Now, that's where actors come in if they want to show body language that, they're going to say things that they don't mean, and they're going to act it out. We know in our lives, in our personal lives, that there are a lot of actors in the world, right? But I will tell you that if you really look, maybe they're not that good after all, but body language is very important.
Yeah. Another key thing, a key idea about text that I don't think I've mentioned is that you give away your ability to control how your message is received, right? When you send a video, because it's automatically infused with all of this nonverbal communication and body language, and sincerity and tone and intent are just part of the message automatically, because of the way you're communicating it. When you type it out and you send it to someone, did they just find out that they got a major deal? Did they just, or did they just find out that their family was in a car accident? Right? Like, that's a dramatic example.
Sure.
Or it could be as simple as, did they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or did they wake up on the right side of the bed? Right?
Exactly.
You're giving away all control over how your message is received, because that form of communication is devoid of all these things that the human brain wants. We want to understand, is this who they say they are? Is this what they intend to say? Is their motivation aligned with me, or is it self-motivated, right? Like, the human brain wants to know all these things because the human brain wants to survive. At a basic level, it's friend or foe, honest or dishonest, right? These basic things we need so we can make safe, healthy, constructive decisions for ourselves. And in the absence of communicating in a medium, when all that stuff is kind of clear and their brain doesn't have to fill in the gaps, when we communicate with text, it leaves a lot of that as a void, and they need to fill the gaps in themselves. And when we give away that opportunity to fill those gaps in for them, we're leaving a lot to chance. And again, so many of these are our most important and valuable messages every single day.
Right, exactly. And you know, you mentioned earlier my birthday videos, and one of the things it does for me is that I do them first thing in the morning. When I get either I'm doing it at my desk or whatever I'm doing it first thing in the morning. What it does for me, it puts me in the right frame of mind for the rest of the day, right? Because I know I've got to be on. You know, I might want to be a little goofy, I might want to be a little funny. I can't do it where happy birthday, David. I can't do it that way. So video is going to make you. I mean, if you do it properly or even wrong, you got to have a better outlook on everything you're doing. And I think it's actually there's more things that can happen to you positively than negatively when you're using video.
Yeah, quick, like very practical tip for people who like this idea of the easier videos we've been talking about, which are happy birthday, thank you, good job, etc. If you just add the word because, it's a lot more meaningful to other people. Hey, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciated when you blah, 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 because blah, blah, blah. If you can just provide a basic reason, it's just so much more impactful for the other person. I want to say a very happy birthday to you. And gosh, I remember when blah, blah, blah. Or, these things that Dave, about all these people that enrich your life and enrich your business and enrich your experience here. I know you're trying to give some of that back to the other people. And I just think about this habit that you've built where on a rolling basis, you're constantly every morning, not only are you starting with like you're creating this joyful experience in yourself for the benefit of other people, but you're also cycling through the faces and names, and your brain is going through the stories and the memories and where did we first meet? When's the last time we connected? And that funny thing that she said, or that one really unique thing about that guy. Gosh, no one else is like him in that way. Like, it's just such a healthy and vibrant thing, not just for your business, because it is, but for yourself.
Right.
And just for the vitality, like I love your habit very much. And I would just encourage people to find a way to adapt some version of it, whether it's birthdays or something else, because it's just so enriching and beneficial. And again, if you just add that because, it really brings it to the next level.
Absolutely. I mean, it's we've got so many things at our fingertips these days than we ever had. The world it's moving too fast. For some of us, I'm enjoying it because it keeps me motivated and energized. Right. And you guys, I mean, you guys have seen in almost a decade you've been where you're at. You've seen how things have changed. In the beginning, it was one way, and now you're doing so much more. And then of course, you and Steve wrote this great book, Rehumanize Your Business. And this is all about, it's all about face-to-face, eye-to-eye, the customer experience as they experience you one-on-one to be able to understand you more, right? It's more about, I talk to people about, how they present themselves on social. You can present yourself in so many different ways, but the majority of things we see, Ethan, in a real estate agent level is boasting. I'm going to use that word, boasting, right? Nobody cares about your boasting. How about telling me the story of what happened? How about this? How about when you're with your customer at the closing table, take out that video camera, hit the video and say, hey, what happened? How did this work out for you? Right? That's personal. That's really communicating in a great way. And then of course, there's just a simple ways of what we're talking one-on-one, right? Tell me about the inspiration behind this book, Rehumanize Your Business, and what else you're working on.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And, but first I just want to say something funny that came to mind as you were describing this kind of like this boastful, making yourself the hero as opposed to making the customer the hero, all these traps that we've historically fallen into where, we punch up all of our marketing with superlatives like best, longest, fastest, lowest, highest, etc. That makes us feel really good, but doesn't really mean that much to anyone because A, everyone's saying it, and B, what does that mean for me, the customer? And I pictured, some agent stepping out of a Lamborghini, and my first thought is like, man, what kind of, how much of my commission that I'm paying is going to go to like just filling up that gas tank or buying the next, exotic, arguably overpriced car, or just, kind of obscene material possession.
Right.
That's my own personal judgment, by the way.
That's okay. I agree.
So yeah, it just, anyway. So I hit my 6-year full-time anniversary at BombBomb. I was just kind of like welled up with excitement and pride, not in myself, but in kind of how far we had come as a community. And a lot of that time was spent specifically in the real estate community in particular. And I had this vision of like how far we still have to go, and we still have a long way to go with regard to this becoming more standard. I believe that first, and so this blog post I wrote was called "You Are a Pioneer." And I believe that anyone that takes on this philosophy and practice is still a pioneer, because as many customers as we have and as many more competitors as we have now than we did even when I wrote that blog post a few years ago, it's still the vast, vast minority of people who can and should be just mixing this into their digital communication. And so you can still be a pioneer if you've never sent a single video, if you start doing a habit today or this week or this month, right? And so I was just really excited about it. And I thought, again, not, how can we generate more free trials and how can we generate more paid customers, but how can we reach, what can I do with this motivation and excitement to reach people who aren't seeing our digital ads, who aren't on our email list, who aren't going to the trade shows that we would go to, and these types of things. And it just occurred to me, like, both Steve and I are very avid readers. And by the way, I still like to do it with a physical book. I'm not an audiobook guy. I mostly listen to podcasts instead of listen to books. If I'm going to listen to something in my ears while I'm running or walking or hiking or driving or whatever.
Right.
So I kind of took the spirit of that book. I took all of the most frequently asked questions I got over the years. I started structuring this thing. I had a couple stories that I wanted to use, and you see that one of them in the beginning of the first chapter. Some of these stories that were really meaningful to me about how impactful this can be, how you can actually build a real relationship, or at least the foundation of one, even in the absence of physical proximity, if you start using video. And so I was just excited about it. I wanted to celebrate some of the people that I had met along the journey who had taught me things or inspired me. Of course, I couldn't include them all. I think there may be 35 or 45 customers mentioned throughout the book, at varying levels of depth. And of course, I would have liked to have included hundreds, but you're somewhat limited. So I created this outline. I started writing it between 5 and 6 in the morning in the better part of a Saturday or a Sunday. At a certain point, I talked with a couple of people who were in publishing, and they were like, is this your book, or is this a BombBomb book, or what is this? Because the publisher is going to want to know. I was like, I don't know. So I talked to Steve, who I work with side by side pretty much every day, not physically. He's outside Philadelphia. I'm here in Colorado Springs, but we work together side by side pretty much every day. I was like, hey man, this is what I'm working on. What do you think about it? And he was like really excited about it. We started to see a vision for this being useful for BombBomb and it being useful for the ideas in the book. Like, there's just a nice, I hate the word synergy, but there was, like, I'm excited to get these ideas out. I knew they would go farther if BombBomb got behind it. And so that's how it kind of came together. Steve came alongside as a co-author on it. And it's been fantastic. I mean, honestly, even today, over 2 years after it was released, not a month goes by. At a point, it was not a day goes by. Then it was not a week goes by. At this point, it's like not a month goes by where I don't hear from 2 or 3 people cold. Some of them I've never met before. Some of them, their name is maybe a little bit familiar from social, or they're in our database, and they've replied to an email before. So the name's a little bit familiar, but we've never like really connected. Hearing from someone saying, oh my gosh, my friend gave this to me, or I saw it at the airport, or, whatever the case may be, And I really enjoyed, or I appreciated, or I've even heard some of these that were like, it was on display at the Barnes and Noble in Chicago. And I've had a couple conversations now with a very young salesperson who's now kind of a sales enablement and sales trainer type person for software companies primarily. He reached out to me cold and was like, hey man, I saw this thing at Barnes and Noble. It really spoke to me based on where I was in that day and where I was in my career at that time. And I felt like it gave me permission and some guidance to kind of do some of the things that I felt like were intuitively right. I knew they were, but I just felt like I needed some validation of the ideas or something. And it was all there. Now we've met a couple of times. I don't know when I'm going to be back in Chicago again, but I'll meet him in person. It's like, it's just really cool. It fulfills that kind of soft, interesting background goal I had of reaching people with something I know can be highly transformative in a way that I couldn't reach them through our traditional marketing channels.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What you just said is the rehumanize your business. I mean, but you talk about, you talk about giving permission is what this gentleman said, right? And it really does. I mean, when you go through the book, it's like saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay. This is good stuff. And besides, it's fun. It really is fun. I mean, my first experience,
I can tell you have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes, I mean, I'll do all types of videos, and right now my buddies and I are in a 90 days of value. Our biggest argument right now, we don't know if it's day 46 or day 47, right? It's because we lost count. How do grown men lose count from one day to the next? But we did. So anyway, long story short is we're doing 90 days of value, 90 days of videos in a row, broadcasting, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, Instagram, right? I usually, what I'm doing on both Facebook and Instagram, right? But, it's going to show your value a lot more, right? And, you talked about being prepared. Basically, what do you got to say, who you are, what's it all about, what do you want people to do? Because people want to be told what to do, right?
Yeah, you're helping them by making it easy to proceed.
Right. You're telling them what to do. And if you set that out, it's going to be much easier to do a video. Now, for me, mostly, I really dislike being scripted on video.
Totally.
I have trouble. I mean, I'll do it. I can set it up. I got a teleprompter, all that fun stuff, but it's just a pain in the ass. So yeah, I did a video today. I did a video yesterday, and I had it in. I had it written down in text what it was going to be when I posted it. I went off on another tangent. It's just like you and I the other day. We got on this call and we wrote down a bunch of things. I don't think we touched half the things we talked about, but this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what this is all about. So just a couple other things, man. We're up on the hour.
Yeah.
What are you working on now? What's new in Ethan's universe?
Cool. Well, between Rehumanize and what I'm about to share with you, I kind of did another go at an even deeper, more tactical, practical level of how to get individuals and teams and entire organizations to successfully adopt this. So I broke down the 4 stages of video adoption and ways to consider that. So we didn't end up printing that as a book, but we designed it in-house. It's a really nice piece. If anyone wants that, they can email me, Ethan, ETHAN @bombbomb.com. Happy to send it to you. But then also Steve and I worked on this one. This is the advanced reader copy. So it doesn't come out until October. It's coming out on Fast Company Press. It's called Human-Centered Communication. We'll make a lot more noise about this a little bit later in the summer, but you can actually pre-order it on Amazon now, or you can go to bombbomb.com/book and drop in your email address, and we'll kind of keep you posted on what's going on with it. But we're doing a variety of things in that book, but what we're really getting at is, one, the fact that this isn't about video, it's about the other person and how we make the other people feel. But it is loaded with tactical ideas. It's about this idea of putting the viewer or the recipient or the call participant. It's not just about video messages, about video in a variety of channels. But the ideas are even transferable beyond video. It's about essentially taking the principles of human-centered design and applying them to our digital, virtual, and online communication in order to be more effective and more fulfilled in the process. And We did deep interviews with 11 different people with a variety of backgrounds and expertise from companies like HubSpot and Salesforce. We did a lengthy interview with a gentleman who's an emotional intelligence expert and holds 7 US patents in the analysis of facial coding data. We've got a woman who's a professional actress and salesperson who now teaches people to be effective on video. And the counterintuitive authenticity of a great actor. We all, like Steve and I, like, it completely turned us around on the idea of acting as a fake act. And instead, the most important thing you can do is invest yourself fully into the role. Anyway, a lot of really cool and interesting and fun ideas that I think people will find, A, useful and motivating, and B, very practical and things that they can put into play on video calls, in video messages, in live in-person sales presentations, and beyond.
That's great, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. This has been in depth and completely and totally mind blowing for me. And I've taken a lot of notes, but one of the things I know that I can do is I can go back and watch this, as everybody else can, to get the little tidbits out of it that they need to get. So I always, when we come upon finishing what we're doing here in the broadcast, right? What we like to do is ask you one question, one really simple question. First of all, for that question, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in talking with you?
I'm Ethan Beute on all the social networks, and my email address is on the screen. And we are BombBomb, just BOMB.com, on the website and on pretty much every social network.
That's great. That's great. Now, the question I have for you is really simple. How do I help you grow your business? How do I help you grow your business?
Continue what you're doing. I mean, you are obviously a shared visionary and pioneer on the idea of using simple personal video messages. I am of the deep belief that the more people do this and do it well, that's the most important thing as far as the movement goes, because the more people who are on the receiving end, because I've heard this as an origin story for some of our best longtime customers, is the first time I sent them a video and I greeted them and said something like, "Hey, Andy, great question, common question. I want to give you a couple ways to think about that." He was like instantly, "Oh my gosh, I never received a video where someone was speaking specifically to me and my unique circumstance.
Right.
The way I felt in the first 3 seconds of that video is the way I want to make all my customers feel." And he immediately jumped in, sent more than 500 videos in his first couple of months with us. And that's what it's about. I think the more of us who understand the value of this, not just from a business perspective, but from the fulfillment perspective of a more satisfying life and work experience,
Right.
That's transferable to other people. And I think the more people do this, the smaller this kind of divided, argumentative, faceless, oftentimes bullying or trolling online existence that we all have. Because to our question earlier, I know that we're going to be spending more time in digital, virtual, and online spaces in the future than we are today. Yep. Despite the fact that we all want to hang out and drink beers or have coffee or have lunch or whatever, we want that too. But we're going to spend more time here. And how do we want that experience to be? How do we want that environment to be for ourselves, for our kids, for the people that we're mentoring, for the younger people that are coming up? Do we want it to be okay that it's all faceless, that it's all text-based, which when it gets faceless, it becomes a little bit more ripe for bullying, for trolling, and all these other nasty things that we do online that we never do face-to-face. So I think it's a good movement for business. I think it's a good movement for culture. I think modeling the behavior is the best way to teach the behavior. So I just say, Dave, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for hosting me. If you feel like recommending the book to other people on a one-to-one or a group basis, that's great. And you're already doing what you can. I appreciate it.
So guys, just remember that Rehumanize Your Business by Ethan Beute and Steve Passanelli. Passanelli, great book. Talks about video and everything else. And Ethan, I know that you found out from Steve that when you come on the show, you get a hat, and that was the main reason that you really wanted to come on the broadcast. So this will be coming out to you, everybody. I want to thank everybody for watching today. And of course, my friend Carl Pease has been watching and wants me to have cigars with him. And we might do that someday, Carl, but maybe not today. But look, I want to remind everybody that next week, July 2nd, we've got Chris Jones from Fizz Bonanza coming on. And Ethan, just stay on for a second. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody really, really soon. Thank you. Next week, as a matter of fact.